And thank you, too, to all of you for coming this evening. That meant a lot to her, I know. So, Betty, you're on, girl. You're on. And you don't even look nervous. She says she won't tell me if she is. Do you need help going on? You got your microphone.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
You're all set.
All right. Oh, I don't need that. Okay. Can you all hear me? Good. Well, there's a person in our family that whenever we're going to go away, then that person says, "What are we going to do there?" And then my mother always said, "Oh, we're just going to have fun." So that's what we're going to do today. If you wonder what we're going to do, yes, we're going to have a lot of fun, and at the same time, we'll learn some things about my life and give thanks to the Lord for His goodness. Now let's see. I think I better stand up here, right? I just can't imagine how this is going to work. I guess I just keep talking. Oh, I can look in here. Oh, all right. I should have practiced, right? All right. We start with the fact that my name is Betty Lorraine DeVries Diemer. My maiden name was DeVries. And I was named Betty after my grandma. Her name was Elizabeth, and I was born in her house. What happened was my mother was expecting me, and my mom and dad were living in my grandma's house temporarily. And they called the doctor, Dr. Diemer that was, and he came. And the first thing he said to her, to my grandma, was, "You go downstairs and get a bucket of water and heat it up." And that meant she had to heat it up in the basement there. Now what do you think that doctor was doing? Well, he was getting rid of her. Yeah. He didn't need my grandma, and I did not want my grandma around either. I just needed the doctor. And that's the beginning of things with at my grandma's house and where I was born. I was born in my grandma's house on Butler Street. Now how do I come up there? Oh, here. Here's a pic. What? Oh, okay. My parents were Jacob DeVries and Alice Vandermeulen. And they met together at Oakdale Park Christian Reformed Church, Young People's. My mother was actually born in the Netherlands, and she came over when she was 4 years old. Oakdale Park Christian Reformed Church sponsored their family, and some other families also at that time, to come over from the Netherlands. My mother remembered that boat ride because she was knitting, and all the people would gather around her watching her knit. Yeah. Man, I should practice this again. All right. This is me. Isn't that cute? Betty Lorraine. See, I was born in my grandma's house, and her name was Elizabeth. My name is Betty, after just like Elizabeth. Lorraine is just something my mother liked, I guess. DeVries. And that's me when I was 6 months old. This is me with my brother. As long as I can remember, my brother was there. Where's my brother? Yeah, stand up, hon. Look at that. He grew up a little bit. Yeah. Well, I tell you, we played together, we were together all the time. Until one day, I think I was about, I don't know, I was going to school, and there was another girl also, and we would play school, you know. Well, Con, he wasn't always such a good student. He was, you know, younger than we were. And this other girl says, how come we have to have that kid hanging around all the time? So at the supper table, you know, that's where you say things. I said to my parents, how come I have to have that kid hanging around all the time? Well, they didn't say anything. But after that, my mother began getting friends for Con and friends for me, so that we didn't have to play together all the time. All right, the next one. My father was a funeral director, and his first funeral home was on Kalamazoo Avenue. You know where Oakdale runs into Kalamazoo? You go straight across, that's the house. It's still there. And I can remember that house because I can remember that my mother would give us special things to eat in the kitchen, which was in the back of the house, while they had visiting hours in the front room, if my dad was busy and if there was a body there. Because my dad was a funeral director already. Then my dad, when I was 5 years old, was able to buy this house on the corner of Eastern and Hall. And he was able to borrow the money from somebody in our church. And it became an opportunity to be located in a better place. And so, as you see, this is DeVries Funeral Home. And this is really where I was raised, on the second floor, Con 2. We were raised on that second floor. That's where our home was. Because the funeral home was on the main floor, you see. Now, as long as I can remember, my dad was remodeling. I'll tell you. First it was, let's see, that carport thing over on the right. Then it was an expansion to the left there. Then it was that nice entranceway. And then we were still not finished, and he put this whole back business on. You can't see it, but you can just a little bit. There's a whole back porch and a room upstairs. So for a kid, that's a little, unnerving. You just think, oh, now we're finished. No, we're not finished. We're going to do something else. And always something else to do. Okay. But I should say, my dad was a funeral director, and he was a wonderful man. He was just a wonderful dad. But one time on the way home from school, somebody caught up with me, and that kid said, "Did your dad put people in berry boxes?" I didn't know what he was talking about. I didn't even answer him. But when I got home, at the table, of course, I said, "Daddy, do you put people in berry boxes?" Still no answer. But let me tell you, I started putting things together a little bit. I was getting older, and my dad had a special room downstairs that was locked, and we were never allowed to go in that room. And when my dad got busy, then he had to make a removal. Oh, I learned that was sometimes from a home, sometimes from a hospital, a removal. Oh, and then there would be, I learned, a body in that room. That was the embalming room. You just learn these things gradually, I guess. You put two and two together. It wasn't a bad thing, but it was kind of a different thing. Anybody else here besides my brother Con raised in a funeral home? Hank, yeah, Hank there. I got a brother Hank there. All right, but I tell you, one wonderful thing that we did every summer, and my mother saw to this, didn't she? She saw to it that we went to a cottage at Barlow Lake. Now, Barlow Lake is only about a half an hour drive away from Grand Rapids. So my dad, when he wasn't busy, he could be there. But when he was busy, he could come back home and do whatever he had to do. There was a lady next door to that cottage who had a telephone. And we rented that telephone from her. And so that whoever was staying in the funeral home to take care of calls could call that lady next door from the cottage there, and then let my dad know that he had to come home because he was busy, he had a call. Kind of complicated. You know, we didn't have any cell phones in those days. But we managed, and I tell you, we had wonderful times at this cottage, didn't we, Con? Yeah. All right, this is my kindergarten class. I had Miss Dina Corker. Anybody remember Miss Dina Corker? Famous? All right. Yeah, a famous and really good kindergarten teacher. She didn't just have her kindergartners play. No, they learned the alphabet, and they learned some words even, and they learned numbers, so that by the time they got into first grade, they knew quite a bit already, isn't that right? Yeah. Well, I missed kindergarten because I had pneumonia. My mother, I'll tell you what happened. I went to school, and then Miss Corker realized that I wasn't well. So she called my mother and said, I think that Betty is sick. And my mother took my temperature, and I had a high fever. So she waited a day or so, and I still had a high fever. So they called Dr. Geenan, and he came home, and anyway, I was in the hospital with pneumonia. And I missed kindergarten entirely. So the next year, I was able to go back to school, and then I went into first grade. And my first report card was a D in reading. I hadn't had a chance, you know. But I can still see my mother's face. That will not happen again, you know. And she really did a lot to teach me how to read. Okay, this is continued, of course, in the Christian school system in Grand Rapids. This is, let's see, my 9th grade graduation from Oakdale Christian School. And you can continue. Oh, and these are my friends. I just have wonderful friends, I'll tell you that. Shirley Stuprasivisma, she's here. Where is she? Shirley? Stand up. Yeah. All right. She's the one to the left. Is Mary Borma here? And the next one is me, and then Geraldine Kirkstra, Hendrickson Kirkstra. She lives in Denver, Colorado. Anyway, these are some of my very best friends, and I still, when we see one another, we're still friends, for sure. I don't know how your parents ever stood us, but anyway, that's the way kids are sometimes. All right, next one. All right, this is a picture of my birth family. I'm the oldest, and then Conrad is next. You saw him, he stood up. And then there was Marjorie Alice. Marge is in here. Henry. Henry's here, isn't he? Yeah, Henry, stand up, Henry. That's Henry Alvin. And my brother, yes. And then there was Lois Marie, and Lois is with the Lord. She died of cancer. So, next one. All right, a very special thing in my life was the fact that I took elocution lessons. There was a lady in Grand Rapids whose name was Muriel Beebe Smith. And Mary Boerma and I were walking down Franklin Street, and we saw a sign on a house, and it said,